What's up, guys? This is Mr. Eldridge, and in today's video, we're going to look at the landmark Supreme Court case of McCulloch versus Maryland. The case of McCulloch versus Maryland began when the state of Maryland attempted to tax the second bank of the United States. The federal government had created the bank, and James McCulloch, a cashier at the Baltimore branch, refused to pay the state-imposed tax. Maryland argued that since the Constitution did not explicitly give Congress the power to create a bank, the bank itself was unconstitutional. McCulloch appealed, and the case reached the Supreme Court, where it raised important questions about the balance of power between state and federal governments, and this simple idea of federalism. The specific legal question here was twofold. First, did Congress have the constitutional authority to establish a national bank, even though this power was not explicitly listed in the Constitution? Second, if Congress did have the power, did the state of Maryland have the authority to tax a federal institution? These questions touched on the limits of implied powers and the principle of federal supremacy. The relevant legal principles here are the Necessary and Proper Clause, Article 1, Section A of the Constitution, and the Supremacy Clause in Article 6 of the Constitution. The Necessary and Proper Clause allows Congress to pass laws needed to carry out its enumerated powers, even if those laws are not specifically listed. The Supremacy Clause established that the federal laws take precedent over conflicting state laws, and that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Together, these clauses provided the framework for determining whether Congress held the explicit legal right to create a bank and whether Maryland could interfere with it. Applying these principles, Chief Justice John Marshall wrote that Congress did indeed have the power to establish a national bank, because it was a reasonable means of carrying out its constitutional powers to tax, borrow money, regulate commerce. Furthermore, Maryland's attempt to tax the bank was unconstitutional because, and as Marshall said, quote, "The power to tax involves the power to destroy, and allowing states to tax federal institutions would undermine the idea of federalism and federal authority." Therefore, the Supreme Court ruled unanimously in favor of McCulloch, strengthening federal power and establishing the doctrine of implied powers of the United States Constitution. Hey, thank you so much for paying attention to this video. If you have not hit that subscribe button, please go ahead and do so now. Also, be sure to share this with your friends. Like this out. Hey guys, thank you so much. Have a great day.